Primetime News brings you the latest in local and international news. Good evening and thanks for making a date with us on this Thursday evening. I'm Michael Madimba. As we always call upon you, if it's your first time joining us, please subscribe, press the like button and be sure to click on the bell icon to stay updated with the latest in local and global news. And the lead tonight. International Relations and Cooperation Minister Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah recently announced that 51 Namibian nationals, mostly students, have arrived safely back home after fleeing war-torn Ukraine.
The students, who arrived in groups between Friday and Monday, were repatriated by the Namibian government after fleeing the war zone Ukraine into accredited Laes-Pfizer neighboring countries for temporary shelter while awaiting repatriation by the government since the invasion of Ukraine by Russia on 24 February 2022. Nandi-Ndaitwah, in a media statement issued on Tuesday, said the ministry is in contact with 6 other students who are still in Ukraine, including those who were successfully rescued in the hotspot Sumy. 5 students, she said, are on their way to the Polish border, while 1 is still working to secure a safe route out of Ukraine. She noted that out of a total of 89 Namibians that were in Ukraine, 81 are safely out, adding that 1 national indicated that she is safe and does not wish to reveal her whereabouts. The minister also said the students are receiving psychosocial support from the Ministry of Health and Social Services, and those living outside Windhoek have been referred to regional social workers. There are some nationals who have opted not to take up the government's offer to be repatriated home and are expected to make their own arrangements, she said, adding that the government will continue to monitor the situation and provide assistance to those remaining in Ukraine to be repatriated back home safely. Salima Shimwefeleni Masipa reporting for Nampa News.
Popular Democratic Movement lawmaker Nico Smith has questioned Namibia's decision to abstain from voting on a resolution on Russia's war against Ukraine at an emergency United Nations General Assembly session on the 2nd of March. Edward Mumbu Jr. compiled this report.
As we speak, Russia is bombing cities that are hundreds of years old and killing and terrorizing civilians indiscriminately. I now ask, 1. Will the Honourable Minister explain to this August House why Namibia, as a member of the United Nations and thus sworn to keep world peace, choose not to support the General Assembly resolution condemning Russia for its unprovoked attack? 2. Does the Honourable Minister have any proof that Ukraine or NATO threatened to attack Russia? 3. What message does the Honourable Minister think was sent to Namibia's friends by its abstention during the vote, as this clearly indicates that it favoured Russia but didn't have the courage to vote against the resolution? 4. Will the government condone the forced change of government in Kiev that President Putin says is the only way to persuade him to withdraw his troops from the Ukraine?
Communities living within the drought-stricken regions of the country are some of the beneficiaries of the 3,000 tons of rice donated to Namibia by the Japanese government. Isabel Bento compiled the story.
The rice, worth 38.4 million Namibian dollars, was handed over by the Japanese ambassador to Namibia, Hideaki Harada, in Windhoek on Wednesday. Accepting the donation, Prime Minister Sarakuhongera Amadila said the donation will benefit the 3 regions for at least 3 months and will also go a long way in completing government's relief program for food insecure Namibians. Namibia has over the past years been experiencing periods of drought and floods, and in 2019, President Dr. Hage Geingob declared a state of emergency from May 2019 to March 2020 due to the negative impact it posed on humans and animals' livelihood. The Prime Minister noted government will continue to assist vulnerable communities facing difficulties due to natural calamities. Harada said the donation is gratitude from Japan and a proof of the cordial relations to support Namibia's efforts of tackling difficulties caused by the drought and outbreak of COVID-19. Salima Shimwefeleni Masipa reporting for Nampa News.
Now, in an unfortunate incident, a 21-year-old man died in the early hours of Wednesday morning at the Okahanja State Hospital, shortly after he was allegedly stabbed with a knife in the chest. Let's get more details from this report compiled by Molisa Simiasa.
Namibian Police Force spokesperson in the Southern Juba region, Inspector Maureen Beha, told Nampa on the same day that the deceased was identified by his relatives as Daryl Brandt from now a presidential area. Beha noted that the deceased was stabbed at his family residence after a quarrel ensued over the payment of $100 Namibian he owed the suspect. She added Brandt sustained a deep wound and was taken to the Okahanja State Hospital, where he succumbed upon arrival. The suspect thereafter handed himself over to the police and was charged with murder. He is expected to appear in the Okahanja Magistrate Court during the week. Police investigations continue.
Stand by for your top roundup. In tonight's Primetime B segment, we begin locally. Bank of Namibia Governor Johannes Gabagab says despite the COVID-19 pandemic, the central bank continues to perform well owing to the systems, processes and manpower within the institution. Marco Ndlovu compiled this report.
Speaking at State House in the capital on Wednesday, where he led the bank's executive management in a courtesy call, Gawahab said the Bank of Namibia will have a board meeting on Friday where they will discuss several issues, including the bank's contribution and payment of dividends to its main shareholder, the government. Gawahab noted the financial results of the bank are promising to be quite significantly better this year than previously, adding that they plan to declare a higher dividend this year than 2020, and they also plan, in consultation with the Minister of Finance, to significantly top up the soon-to-be-launched sovereign fund. Gawahab also affirmed that the bank's executive management team was now fully fledged following the appointment of Leone Dunn as the second deputy governor of the bank.
On to bilateral matters. Namibia and Zambia are holding joint commission consultations aimed at improving the living standard of their respective citizens through social, economic, diplomatic and political partnerships.
The two countries have signed a permanent Namibia Zambia Joint Commission of Cooperation aimed at strengthening various sectors such as trade, transportation, finance, agriculture and justice, among others. Speaking at the opening ceremony of the 4-day 10th session of the Namibia Zambia Joint Commission of Cooperation here on Wednesday, the Ministry of International Relations and Cooperation Executive Director Penda Nanda said the two countries are reviewing progress and challenges on the implementation of various agreements signed in previous sessions, however could not be realized due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Nanda explained that there is a need for the two countries to reinvigorate various agreements to ensure maximum benefit for both nations, noting that the current traded products between the two countries include fish, maize, copper, steel and electricity, stressing that there is a need to expand trading cooperation. At the same event, Zambia High Commissioner to Namibia, Stella Lubongani, said the two nations have a long-term relationship which include cooperation on the international level, such as the African Union. However, there is a need to enhance various socio-economic partnerships to ensure social justice for their people.
With the business and economics news, we've come to the end of the top news segment for this evening. Stay tuned for the economics roundup followed by the weather forecast. In tonight's Sport Planet segment, we commence with Ukraine-Russia related news. The UK government has sanctioned Roman Abramovich, freezing the Russian-Israeli billionaire's planned sale of Chelsea Football Club. The 55-year-old put Chelsea up for sale on the 2nd of March in the wake of Russia's continued invasion of Ukraine. Let's get more details from DPA.
Abramovich has owned Chelsea since 2003 and has always staunchly denied any current political links to Russia's ruling elite. But Boris Johnson's government said earlier today it has now frozen all his UK assets. Chelsea will be given a special license to continue operation, but the sale of the Stamford Bridge club is now on hold. The shape of Chelsea's long-term future has naturally been thrown into doubt, but UK government ministers were quick to insist any damage would be limited.
Switching gears to Formula One. Four-time Formula One world champion Sebastian Vettel had a Ukraine flag emblazoned on his helmet in protest at Russia's invasion of Ukraine when he drove his Aston Martin in testing in Bahrain earlier today. The 34-year-old German had spoken out forcefully a fortnight ago when Russian President Vladimir Putin launched the invasion, declaring he would refuse to drive in the Russian Grand Prix. AFP brings us more.
The 25th of September's race was quickly cancelled, and a week later, Formula One terminated their contract, declaring there would be no further race in Russia. Vettel's helmet bore not only the Ukrainian flag, but also a dove, the symbol of peace, with the words "peace and love, no war," and the words to John Lennon's legendary song, Imagine. Vettel had also joined 17 of his rival drivers, the exceptions being 7-time champions Lewis Hamilton and Haas Kevin Magnussen, who has replaced the sacked Russian driver Nikita Mazepin, to pose behind a Ukrainian flag and a banner bearing the phrase "No War." Haas terminated both Mazepin's contract and that of Russian title sponsor Uralkali, the company of which Mazepin's father Dmitry is an executive director, last Saturday.
Your sports roundup is up next. With the Sport Planet segment, we've come to the end of tonight's edition of Primetime News. Thank you for joining us. Another reminder that if you're new to this channel, please subscribe, like, share and click on the notifications bell to stay abreast on the latest happenings locally and globally. Feel free to interact with us in the comment section. Make a date with us tomorrow for the week's last edition of Primetime News. From myself, Michael Madimba, and the entire crew behind the scenes, it's good night.